The Hill neighborhood is well known for restaurants, bars, and even grocery stores. But what I want to talk about is St. Ambrose Church, right behind me. When the Bishop of Milan died, a dispute over his replacement was leading to violence. Ambrose intervened to calm both sides. He impressed everyone involved so much that while he was still unbaptized, he was chosen to fill the position. He resisted, claiming that he was not worthy, but to prevent further violence, he assented, and on 7 December 374, he was baptized, ordained, and consecrated as bishop. He immediately gave away his wealth to the church and the poor. He did it both for the good and as an example. St. Ambrose is, of course, the patron saint of St. Ambrose Parish. Ambrose was consecrated Bishop of Milan by public proclamation, and of course he needed a church. And when he built his church in Milan, it was in the style of the time. This style is known as Romanesque. It is the model for the church built on the hill some 1,500 years later. The church in Milan, the Basilica di Ambrosio, is a little different. Being the bishop, Ambrose needed a place to address the faithful, and so the church has, as a prominent feature, a portico in front, a covered walkway around, a public gathering space where he addressed the faithful. Also, as opposed to the single bell tower of the church here in St. Louis, the Basilica di Ambrosio has two towers, one slightly different than the other. One is taller, one is shorter. This is in keeping with the style of the time.
Marion Smith is an architect here in St. Louis, and she's been working for about 35 years, and she is an expert in historical restoration. Marion, we'd like to ask you about the look of St. Ambrose. Why do you think the immigrants would have chosen this particular architectural style?
Well, many of the immigrants may have come from small cities and towns that had the same style of architecture, Romanesque. It is also nicknamed the round style because the windows all are semicircular, and you can see that in the front of the building. All the doors have semicircular arches above them. You also see the round wheel window, which is typical of that style, and also the wall surfaces are really broad and smooth. It doesn't have as much embellishment as some of the later Renaissance styles. You can see the typical bell tower, which in Italy is called the Campanella, and it has semicircular arches, windows as well, with a pyramidal roof. And a lot of times, typically the tower would have been up at the front, but in this case, where they had the school, it kind of is between the school and the church, and you only have it on one side, and that's very typical to have an asymmetrical tower configuration. We also see the semicircular arches in the corbelling under the roof at the rakes, and that's very typical of this style as well. Let's see. The buttresses are typically much more modest than the later styles where they kind of pushed the envelope and, you know, did much higher structures, and the flying buttresses and so forth. So I think this is very typical of that earlier Romanesque style. They also typically built in whatever local materials were available, whether it be brick, stone, terracotta, marble. So in St. Louis that was brick, so that was very in character, in keeping with the style to have done it in brick here in St. Louis.
So this is a beginning look into the history of St. Ambrose and St. Louis on the Hill. Immigrants in the New World turned to their faith and drew upon their cultural identity to bring to St. Louis a beautiful church in Romanesque style and add not only an anchor to their community, but establish an enduring historic connection between the Old and the New World. St. Ambrose serves as a reminder of the faith and commitment to community of those immigrants over 100 years ago on the Hill in St. Louis.